Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And starting off the show today with a few shoutouts. First off, thank you to our Facebook followers, Isabel Launchberry, Diane Nix, and Beth Heron Butler. They were at the top of the list when it comes to engaging with us on Facebook. So thank you very much for that. We always, like we're always saying, promoting, we always love to hear from our listeners and followers. So yeah, it's great. And they're all women too. So we like to see that. Yeah.
And
like
then
the guys. We like the guys too.
We appreciate that our male, our male supporters as well. Yes. But more women, we definitely want to engage with more women for sure. Yeah. And then on YouTube, we also want to thank, at Kristen Zola and at Typewriter Mark for watching the show and leaving us a comment with their feedback. Of course, as we just said, we want to thank all of our listeners and social media followers. If you want to get a shout out on a future show, we would love to hear from you. Leave us a comment on YouTube or wherever you listen to our show, Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
All right. So bit of business here. We just want to let you know our show is sponsored by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen.
With the largest selection of odds on everything from NHL to football, NBA, and college basketball to UFC and MMA, head to the website betonline.ag today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know needs support or advice, you can reach out to Connex Ontario or an organization near you. All right, so we're going to get right into the show, and we're going to start things off with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then we're going to run the Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel. And then for our third period segment, we are very excited to have on the show former NHL player and current TSN analyst, Anthony Stewart. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so the good, the bad, the ugly. Yeah, so it took a week off the last time we were doing the show, so it's back. And my good are the positives from going to OT. So I guess last season, I looked it up, we had 23 games going to OT. And they actually say, I read that it's, I guess when it comes to the points and that, like it's not good for generally the teams that go to OT more often don't make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Which I found
that makes sense, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so. You're not getting obviously the 2 full points. You're only getting the 1 point, assuming you lose the game. But I'm thinking, I'm looking at the three games that I looked at were, first of all, the one versus the Bruins back in October, where it was 3-2 late in the third, and we managed to come back and tie it up. We did lose that game in overtime, but at least we came back to tie it up, and it was a divisional game. So it's good to get the point, right? Mm-hmm. Like out of that at least. And then there was the game versus Minnesota where it was on the second half of the back-to-back. So again, it was tied, and then we lost again, mind you, but we still managed to get a point, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then on the flip side, where we actually won versus the Capitals last week, it was a big comeback win, obviously, and JT, John Tavares, scoring the game-winning goal there. But I just think having all of those situations, like to actually go through those situations in the regular season in OT, I think it's a good thing for a team to go through, I think now. Mm-hmm. So
the Washington Capitals one in particular, I think that was a really important one, I think, because, we were coming off that not great loss to Ottawa. That was the second half of a back-to-back, and they didn't give up in that game. So I think that one was definitely something that you could build on. For sure.
And even the Minnesota game, actually, it's funny that you say that, because it's the same, that Minnesota game, it was the second half of a back-to-back where we played in St. Louis the night before. And that was they didn't play great, obviously, in Craig Berube's return to St. Louis. And, but they stuck in that game versus Minnesota, it was a tight game. It was only 2-1 that they lost in OT. So those are the kinds of things I think I guess it galvanizes a team maybe a little bit, like to just have those experiences and as they go through the regular season and use that when it comes to playoff time too. Obviously, overtime is a little bit different in the playoffs, but
for sure. But there's going to be games like that you're going to have to crawl your way back into, you know?
Yeah.
And these are the moments that you sort of build some of those muscles, right? Yeah. So I definitely think, you know, hopefully we're not going to have too many like that, but you know, it shows, especially, you know, both of those situations, like you mentioned, that they are coming off of a not very good loss and, then turning around. And even though they didn't start great, you know, try to scrap their way to at least a point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
what's your good?
My good actually over this stretch is the goaltending. So, we've had some losses. Really interestingly, over the last 5 games that each of our guys have played, they've, both won 3 and lost 2. Anthony Stolarz still just absolutely incredible. Even in the losses that he had in the last 5 games that he's played, he has an over 9 save percentage.
Yeah.
He does not have like anything in the 8s at all.
And that game versus Ottawa too. Like he really, like we lost
over
that game, but
over 40 shots that he saw that game. I think 41, and he let in I think 3, and still he has that was his lowest save percentage at 9.9 exactly. But together as a team save percentage over, the last, 10 games that they've played, they have, together over, 9-4, which is pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is finally great to see that we actually have a tandem. Like,
yes.
Together,
sure.
Wall is working his way back. I thought he played really well versus Washington. Like he's a real big reason why they got back into that game. Yeah, and it's just nice to see for a change that we have those 2 goaltenders and they're supporting each other. And last night versus the Oilers, Stolarz was really good. To stopping Connor McDavid on a few big time chances that he had. And, he had no chance on the power play goal that they scored. It was like, it was like he was standing there by himself, McDavid, off to the side and had the wide open net. But and even on the first goal, they weren't really, really ready. Yeah. To start didn't seem like. Yeah. Not starting on time, but
no.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so going on to the bad now. That's for my bad is the depth scoring. We need more from the likes of Robertson, Holmberg, even David Kampf. Because I was mentioning we were at the game versus the Oilers last night, and I was mentioning to Sil about how, like, at the World Championships, the guy was a beast there. Like and I thought I'm going to look up and see how many points he got. So I actually could not find like the actual number of points in the whole tournament. But in the semifinal game, he scored the tying goal versus Sweden to get the game tied. And then they ended up winning the game, Team Czechia. And, and then he got the empty netter in that one. I remember in the gold medal game, he got the empty net goal to kind of seal the deal for Czechia to win the gold medal. And I remember how, like, he was playing with Martin Necas, which I believe he's on Carolina. So he's a pretty good passing kind of player. He likes to pass the puck and that. So, but I don't know. I just think that from that, you could see a little bit more jam in his game when it came to offense. And I just think he can bring, he's not going to score 20 goals or anything like that. But even if he could get up to the 10 goal mark, right now he doesn't have anything.
No, I know. And, in the last few seasons, he's actually, since he came to Toronto from Chicago, I mean, he actually had a lot more offense than he ever did before. But I don't know if it's, the new system under Berube that maybe he's just not, expected to do those things or what. Like even last night, like he played up in the lineup a little bit more because, he had to replace Reeves. So, he was getting spotted a little bit, higher up the lineup. But yeah, it's just,
because I'm looking now too, it's his cap hit is 2.4 million, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to have something from somebody that is taking, like, you got to get more production from him, for a guy that's taking up that much of the cap.
Yeah.
Sorry, but they just do.
Yeah.
Somehow. And, and then the other guys like Holmberg and Robertson. I mean, Robertson, if he would just bloody well hit the net. Like, I mean,
well, I personally think if he would just stay on his feet, because it seems like he takes a shot and then he falls down. So like, how are you even going to, how are you going to get a second chance on that when you're on the ground? Like he's just always falling down. Like he has got to stay on his feet. To me, that looks just like a guy that doesn't really have the confidence, like when you're always falling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So Nick Robertson, stay on your feet and shoot the puck on net. Right. So that'll maybe get you some points. Cause I believe he's now 12 games without a point. He might have had an assist in there, but he doesn't have any goals. Because that one goal was taken away that should have counted versus Detroit, the other game, the Hall of Fame game that, like he should have had, that should not have been. Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that goal sticking could have turned things around. Like that's kind of what happened in the preseason, like he was really snake bit and then all of a sudden he got one and it sparked something in him. So I really think he needs to get one and then maybe. Like, it just was so Nick Robertson for that goal to be called back. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so my bad is another player that we need to see more of, and that is Max Domi. And, he has in 19 games so far this season, only 6 points, all assists, which that part is not surprising. But in the last 5 games, he is I'm just looking at his stat sheets. There's nothing there. It's all zeros. 0, 0, 0, except he's also a -3. So, -3, that's actually probably not horrible for him. But yeah, like he's just not producing anything right now. And we really, really need him to. And I know that, a lot of people saying, maybe he's, it's because he's playing center and, in Auston Matthews' absence. But I don't know. He just doesn't look right to me right now. And I don't know if he's maybe nursing something as well, potentially.
Yeah. Well, he is sitting out, like I mentioned yesterday to you, that he has been sitting out practices like on the game day.
And so they're calling it maintenance or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
So I just wonder if there's something else going on there because like even the things that he normally does well, like his passing and everything, it's just kind of non-existent right now.
Yeah. And he seems to be pressing a little bit too when it comes to, again, like he's similar to Robertson. When he's shooting the puck, it's going wide. It's like it's going off to the side or it's going in the netting behind the net. Like it's just, I don't know. I just think that he needs to, they're definitely in the next little while, they're going to have lots of practice time. So hopefully whatever's bothering him, if there is a small injury or some minor injury, that he'll be able to get that taken care of and practice his shot too. Because, we'll see how it goes. But,
well, hopefully, like normally after I call somebody out, they have a bounce back. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And he did. It was funny because he was on your bad list a couple of shows back anyways. And he did get going the next game. So we'll see versus Vegas if he manages to do that. All right. So there is no ugly, of course, with the exception of Auston Matthews not playing for a couple of weeks now. That, of course, we can say is ugly due to an upper body injury, which we all know. But we do have some highlight reel moments to get through. So let's roll the Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel.
All right. Coming in at number 3, we have Oliver Ekman-Larsson. So he played his 1,000th NHL game versus the Washington Capitals. The 33-year-old defenseman is in his 15th NHL season, and he is just the 20th Swedish player to reach this milestone. So I thought that was really great how they all had the merch, the t-shirts and the hats. And it was also very classy for the Washington Capitals to, put it on their Jumbotron and everything as well and celebrate that, with, for the road team, which is kind of nice. And, of course, the celebration they had, on Saturday. I always like it when they have the little mini stick to give to the kid and all that. Yeah. It's really, it's great. And it was fitting that it was Treliving that was giving him the stuff too, because he's part of the crew that drafted him in Arizona as well. Yeah. Yeah. No. So, I mean, I don't know. I've been impressed with Oliver Ekman-Larsson since he's come here too. Like it's just, it must be the fact that he's won a Stanley Cup that like just last year with Florida, but something about his game is total. Like it's Paul Maurice must have, I don't know. He got something through to him to actually use his size. He's a big guy. He's been using his size smartly, and he has that long reach with the long stick. And yeah, I'm just really, I'm surprised about the physicality in his game that he's gotten brought to the game. And, obviously 1,000 games is huge for NHL players. And I actually looked it up. He was drafted in 2009, and it was part of it was a draft class, same draft class as Victor Hedman and Mattias Ekholm. So those are two other Swedish, we saw Ekholm last night with the Oilers, but, two other big name Swedish defensemen. So yeah, I didn't know that. And, one thing to note to our listeners, Sil is taking Swedish lessons too. I am.
Just so you know. I wanted to point that out from our trip to Sweden. We went last year to Sweden in the Global Series, and that was, so it's all good when it comes to Sweden. And
gotta be ready if we ever get to interview a Swedish player.
Yes, a Swedish Leaf player, let's say.
Yes.
Another Leaf player. Who could that be? Anyways. All right. Coming in at number 2, we have Bobby McMann.
Yes, he cemented himself in this spot last night.
Yeah. And while Auston Matthews is out, he is becoming known also as Bobby McMatthews. So, he has 3 goals in the past 2 games after going the previous 11 games without a point. So that's quite something. And he answered our call last night, and gave us a highlight reel moment with his second goal of the game versus the Oilers, where he took off from his own blue line and held onto the puck before shooting it past Oilers goalie Stuart Skinner. So yeah, that was just an amazing, it was just so nice to see him use the speed. I know he's elevated in the lineup, obviously playing on the top line, now with Tavares and Marner.
There's, one might say that that's really where you can get the most out of the guy though, too, Yeah. He seems to play really well when he's with good players.
Yeah. And I mean, he's 27 years old, right? So it's not like he's a young, like I was reading some stuff from last year, and Sheldon Keefe, the former coach, he was saying like, he's a 27-year-old rookie, right? So it's not like he's a rookie, but he has experience, let's just say, right at the minor league level. So, I just think that being on that line with Tavares and Marner obviously is going to help give him confidence. And once Matthews comes back, it's going to be interesting to see though how it all shakes out when it comes to the lineup and where he's gonna go, because now, like you were mentioning still last night, I guess like we have 2 power forwards now with Matthew Nyes and Bobby McMann. They're both they're both big bodies anyways, right? They're kind of similar. But so, and he answered, he was the second star last night of the game. So it's fitting he's second on our highlight reel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So now in the number one spot, we have John Tavares. The former Leaf captain is picking up the slack while current Leaf captain Auston Matthews is out with his upper body injury. So he has 6 points in his last 5 games, including the OT winner versus the Capitals. Tavares already has 3 game-winning goals this season, and he continues to be strong in the faceoff circle at 59% on his draws. So yeah, he's been really noticeable in this last little stretch. And it's great to see. You know, I think that, you know, when he was sick a little while back, I think that, you know, we had talked about, you know, he lost a lot of weight, all of that. I think it took a little while for him to kind of get back into game shape after that, you know, probably, you know, it can take a lot out of you. And obviously we know the older you are, the harder it is to get back. But
unfortunately, yeah, yes. We do.
Yeah, but I think that he is clicking on all cylinders right now. Like he's looking good. He's looking spry. He's looking fast. Like even on that give and go that he had with Marner on in the overtime yesterday. You know, those were the moments last year where it's like, oh no, like, you know, JT in overtime, you know, he just does, he would often run out of gas, but he's not looking like that's happening. That's for him right now. So yeah, he's looking really good.
Yeah, no, he had his motor going on the Capitals game too, where he got the overtime winner there, right? He really went, I guess, blew past everybody there and got in and got the, I think it was 5-hole that he went on Logan Thompson, the Capitals goalie. But, yeah, I just think he's back to looking like good old John Tavares, being Mr. Consistency and
100%.
Just good in the tight areas right in front of the net, right? Jamming away at it. And and he's just on and off the ice. He's a former captain, obviously. He's a good former captain, still is now an assistant captain, and he's just continuing what he does. And he seems to be enjoying it, like from my like the game. I don't think I ever
saw him smile this much. Like, you know, So like we said at the very beginning of the season, this is what I was expecting, that he is going to be a big load off for him. You know, now he can just go out and enjoy his game without all that extra pressure. So. Yeah. Anyway, so the Leafs are now 11-6-2, and that's good for second in the Atlantic, 1 point behind the Florida Panthers for first place. But the Panthers do have a game in hand. And right now we're going to switch over to our third period segment, and we are excited to have as our guest former NHL player Anthony Stewart.
All right, so we want to welcome to the show former NHL player and now a hockey analyst on TSN Leafs broadcasts, Anthony Stewart.
Anthony is also chairman of Hockey Equality, an organization that offers programs to support and develop hockey at the grassroots level. And he is president of the KW Siskins Hockey Club of the Greater Ontario Junior Hockey League. So welcome and thanks for joining us on the show, Anthony.
Thanks a lot for having me. Great to join you on this fine weekend here.
Yes, we can see you're still at the rink. You were excited to see that. It's the perfect backdrop for our show.
Yeah.
Hockey doesn't stop for me. It's hockey, hockey, hockey.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. And a lot of Leaf news today, obviously. But before we get into, we are going to get into it now. Just to ask you, I guess the Leafs are now 5-1, including 2 OT wins, without Auston Matthews in the lineup. What do you see as the main difference or differences in the Leafs game that has given them the success without having their star center in the last 6 games?
Well, it's a bit of an anomaly, obviously, right? With your star player who's, can score 60 to 70 goals on any given season too. And let's preface this by saying the Leafs are a better team, obviously, with him in the lineup. But what I think it does is it just forces guys to elevate their game. So when you try to explain, what this is, I think it's just, when you have that many superstars, there's not enough puck to go around. So some guys' numbers were sort of faltering. So with Auston Matthews out of the lineup now, you're seeing players like Nylander and especially Mitch Marner really elevate their game just to sort of carry the mail with Auston Matthews out. So Marner's been fantastic, probably one of the best players in the league, I think, for the last 2 weeks. Same thing with Nylander and, John Tavares. And what a story he's been this season. And, this is the first time sitting in this market of Toronto with, the main headlines not being, the main headlines, right? Him losing the C. We're not talking about Mitch Marner and his contract status, where if they were faltering, especially with Auston Matthews out, I probably would have to move out of the city because it would be on every single, channel and every single social media network. So I think they're getting it done by committee. Everyone's stepping up and they have to elevate their play. But there's really a competition, knowing that with Craig Berube, if you have a bad shift or a bad period, someone else is coming in to step up and take your job. You're seeing Bobby McMahon elevate from the third line to the first line. Matthew Nyes has been a constant in the top six as well. And you're seeing Connor Dewar entered into the lineup as well and creating that competition. So it's unfortunate Max Pacioretty got hurt because he was great playing on the left flank of Nylander and Tavares. But it's just a lot of guys elevating their game, and that's probably the main factor in the success they've had in Auston Matthews' absence.
And so I think you kind of mentioned a couple of them, but I was kind of wondering, aside from like the core four guys that have elevated, like you said, like, is there anybody else that's really kind of popped for you during this time that Austin's been out?
I'm gonna mention two. We have some time to discuss. So I'll start off with Bobby McMahon, and you saw the game that he had the other night, last night, and just really scoring those 2 goals. And it's one of those players that once he figures out who he is as a player, he could be a 25 goal scorer constant in this league. Just that speed that he had on that second goal and that touch. He's got a really good fine touch around the net. And I think for him, he's still figuring out his game, but he's got a lot of confidence under this Craig Berube system. But I think for me is just Matthew Nyes and just seeing the power forward star that he's butting into. And, it's funny. He comes in and he gets in on the forecheck and makes a hit. And the guy falls. He's almost shocked, like, "Oh, I have all this time and space. Let me fucking do something." So he's coming into his own, and he can put the puck in the net. You saw him rip it last night as well too. So I really like McMahon. I really like Nyes. They've been elevating too. But I think right now, Mitch Marner, you can see that he can carry a line, drive a line, and really put a team on his back. He's been making some fantastic plays, and he didn't shut down Connor McDavid last night, but he made some big plays where he broke it up defensively, especially on the overtime goal there, where he just, had a good stick in the lane, took it, went back off the rush, and ended up scoring. So, again, that's a big breath of guys elevating, but for me,
Sure.
it's fun to watch.
Out of curiosity, in your career, like, when you played, did you ever have like a star player be out for that long and have to play like Eric Stahl? I guess I saw you played with Eric Stahl in Carolina.
No. It's funny. I told a story on air, yesterday was, when I was in the minors with, the Rochester Americans, it was split between Buffalo and Florida. And every time the Sabres or Florida watched, all the guys in the minors would go to this restaurant to watch because we'd hope someone get hurt. So if someone got hurt, we were like, okay, we're getting called up. So me, Clark MacArthur, Drew Stafford, Greg Campbell. And so it's funny. When I got called up the first time, we were all sitting there having a watch party. I'm like, "Hey guys, we'll see you later. I'm going up to the NHL now too." So you never want to pray for injuries, but again, you don't want your star players to really be hurt for any extended period of time because they're big parts of the team, and the success depends on their success and their health as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now the Leafs are going to be heading into a stretch of very few games with only 3 in 11 days, and that means there's time to practice. So what do you think that Berube and co should be working on with the team to be able to make the most out of this time? Because we don't get that too often in season, right?
Yeah, this is probably the time of year I hated, right? Practicing and going over video and all these system stuff. But I think for them, it'd probably be just getting a little bit more repetitions as lines, and they've been mixing and jumbling them up the last couple of weeks. So just getting a little bit more chemistry with your line mates. And we know that Marner and Matthews over the years have, tremendous chemistry, but, you have to learn their tendencies and learn the routes that some guys run. But I think for them, it's just continuing working on specialty teams, and the power play has been great as of late, and it's jumped from, I think, 30th in the league into the top third. So just getting repetitions on that. But I think just maybe the main thing is just getting that chemistry, working on specialty teams, and just I think rest as well, because again, as easy as a stretch they have now, it's going to be compounded now when they're going to be playing another bunch of 3 and 4s or back-to-back nights.
Exactly.
All right. So big news today. We already got it word, or I don't know if you've seen it actually, because you're at the rink, but I guess in the game versus
I've been
is breaking news.
I'm on X 24/7, but I've been since 11 a.m. So I'm looking forward to it. What do we got?
All right. So in the game versus the Oilers, Ryan Reeves made a big hit, obviously, on the Oilers defenseman Darnell Nurse, and he's been suspended for 5 games by the NHL Department of Player Safety. And we want to get your thoughts on what you thought of the hit and the 5-game suspension.
Well, it's funny. Wayne Simmons had an early night last night. He went to bed and then he texted me today and he's like, I just saw the hit. He's like, that's bad.
Oh, okay.
He says that's that bad. I was assuming it's probably going to be 4 or 5 games. But first things first, I'm good friends with Darnell Nurse, and let's just hope that he's not too seriously injured. And I think the one thing about Ryan Reeves, it was a bad hit. It wasn't a legal check. But Ryan Reeves is an honest player, and he doesn't go out there trying to hurt guys. And, he's made a career of being upfront and not jumping guys or playing. He does play a physical game, but it's an honest physical game. And I think for him, there's been a lot of pressure on him. We've been questioning, hey, when's the last time Ryan Reeves has fought? What is his exact role with this team? And, that pressure, forces you sometimes to go out there and add an extra physical element to his game. But it was a bad hit, but I don't think he really had intentions in hurting Darnell Nurse. They are friends off the ice, and they spent some time in the summer as well too. So I don't think he meant to hurt him. But at the end of the day, those are the hits that you're trying to eliminate from the game. But when you slow everything down, frame by frame, yes, it looks really, really bad. But in real time, it's really tough to adjust. It's tough to adjust the pathway. It's tough, but it's funny. I mentioned it on the broadcast yesterday. As a player, if I had a guy lined up like that, I would yell heads up. And I've talked to some physical players over the years, and they was like, no, we were church mice and we tried to hurt guys. So I think that's the difference between me and some other guys. And maybe that's why I'm not playing anymore and talking about the game. But I just think about now that I coach young kids. I have young kids, and I don't want to have to see them, get dragged off the ice in a situation like that. So for me, it's, yes, hockey is a contact sport. Hockey is very, very physical, and sometimes guys get hurt, but those are the hits you're trying to get out of the game. And I'm sure if Ryan Reeves could do it again and think about that situation, I'm sure he'd probably make that hit a little bit differently. But, it's tough to judge, and this game is so fast. And
that's the thing. That's what I thought. Yeah. Like the game is just so fast. How you adjust yourself just that centimeter over, like to hit the body instead of the head, like the way I was watching the NHL Player Safety, the video, just the frame by frame, what they look at. And I'm just like, I don't know, it would just be hard for at that
You don't want him to go low. You want him to go low and go with his hip, and then maybe he takes his knee out. That's even worse, right? So, but I think we can all agree, like, yes, it's a hit that you don't want to see. And we all hope that Darnell Nurse is going to be okay long term.
Yeah. All right. Second part of that question, then, I guess now that Reeves is going to be out of the lineup until December 4th now versus Nashville. And he has actually played 16. He's been in the lineup 16 of the 17 Leaf games to start the season. But do you think this is potentially maybe a positive for the Leafs because they'll get other players like to get the depth scoring, basically, is what I'm getting at, to with Domi, Holmberg, Robertson, to give them more ice time. The fact that Reeves is not playing, because there has been that angle from the fans as well. They're like saying he doesn't score. Like what is he providing out there? And now that he's not there, I mean, he has, to me, he obviously, Reeves has he contributes to the team in a different way, more with the physicality, and he's been pretty good, I think, like for his skating ability. But do you think having that extra ice time, like it'll help maybe Craig Berube get, I guess, the depth scoring, get more chemistry, I guess, in the lineup when it comes to
the
that?
one thing I can say is, Ryan Reeves didn't earn that 3-year contract because he's such a great guy and he brings a positive vibe in the dressing room. He brings, he is paid for his services that he brings on the ice. And
Right.
the one thing I can say, he is very, very tough. And there's some archives of him beating me up. And when he is on the ice, the other team is on notice. And it's sometimes going out there and throwing a big hit. It is the odd fight, but just his element. And I used to be on the ice and I would finish a check hard. And the hardness of the check I would finish would depend on who's going to answer the bell. So if a team had a tough guy, I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to finish it just as hard because I don't want someone to come after me. But if they did not have a tough guy, I'm running a guy through the wall. So he does have that deterrent element. But the one thing I can say from the Leafs perspective is the fourth line does have an identity, between him and Kampf and Morenz. They are net positive when they are on the ice. They're getting pucks in on the forecheck. They are cycling and they're not stuck in their end for 30, 40 seconds. So out of the four lines, I could say they probably have more of an identity and an impact on the game than the third line this season. And I called it for the third line. It was a bit of the vortex, right? They're just stuck in the mud a little bit. They're getting caught on minuses. And no matter who's there, whether it's Tavares at the beginning of the year or Domi there as well, they didn't really have that identity. So with Reeves out, I guess it adds an element of maybe giving another guy an opportunity. And, maybe Steves comes in and adds a little bit of a different element. But that fourth line, say what you want, compared to the last 2-3 years, you notice them more positive than negative the last couple seasons. So Ryan Reeves, he's a part of that. And I'm sure Craig Berube, he has a system and he wants big, heavy, strong guys that get to the net. And again, for me, I like the addition and I like the element that he brings to this Leaf roster on the fourth line. And, would you want him to have 9 goals and 30 points? Yes, but it's tough to do that as a fourth line right now because guys it's a tough checking element too.
So then, looking at that third line, because we have to agree that's the line. And it seems like for years, we haven't been able to get enough out of them and there's just no identity there. So what's your suggestion there to try to get those guys going a little bit better? Or what kind of mix would you like to see?
Well, it's, the Mikheyevs and, our friends out in LA and the guys that they sort of got rid of in years past, right? But, for me, it's they've been going to market and try to get those guys for cheap. And you're looking at teams that win Stanley Cups. Those third line guys are $4 million, $5 million guys, right? The Yanni Gords, the Goudreaus, and guys that play a great two-way game. But just the way that the salary structure is right now, they have to find guys on the cheap. They have to get the Holmbergs at whatever it may be. And, Robertson coming off his entry level. So for me, it's, where is the Mason Marchments? Where are guys like that? They may or may not have had those guys in the years past.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
You have to draft and develop and have impact players that are in that middle six. So the one thing I can say, if Nick Robertson had 4 goals or 5 goals this year, I would not be surprised. He has been on the ice and he's just been snake bitten. And I know, with that third line, you want to see a little bit more of a two-way game, a little bit more of a physical element, but that's not really what he brings. But again, it's just an identity. I want to see more of an identity. And I'm thinking that's something they're probably going to address on the market. I'm not sure what's out there, but for me, I want to see a little bit more identity.
What about a guy like Gurbenkin, who's in the Marlies? He actually had a pretty long look in the preseason. People seem to be pretty high on him. I wonder if a guy like that could add a little spice to a third line.
Yeah, well, he had a really good preseason. I remember he had a fight. I think he was, ramping up the crowd there, raising his hands there too. And that's part of it. In an 82 game season, you got to have guys come up from the farm and get an opportunity. And, for me, it's like, Fraser Minton almost made the team. He did make the team last year. I mean, he did have his 9 games before going back. And I'm sure, he's recovering from his injury, but he's back now playing down in the Marlies. I could see a guy, in the next month or so like that coming in and stepping in and playing on that third line. And, you're looking at the Dallases and teams that have had success. They sort of have a prospect come out of nowhere and really perform. You saw the Wyatt Johnsons and then the Maverick Borks and Stankoven. So you need to promote and give guys an opportunity. So for me, I'll use this as my opportunity to sort of advocate for Nick Robertson, where I think it's almost 2 years too late, where he should have got that opportunity to show what he can do. And I believe if you gave him his 15 to 17 minutes and left him in that top 6, I could see him having a different future and a different outlook than he has now. But I'm a big advocate for giving guys an opportunity, because you need, in this salary cap structure, if you can't go in and get those $4 million, $5 million guys, you're not going to find them for cheap. You have to draft and develop them.
100%.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he gets a little bit more time there.
And you're right about Fraser Minton too, because he's a centerman, and our lack of depth at center too is, you never know.
He's only on the wing. Can we all agree on that? Let's
for sure.
Take time and put him on the wing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we want to know a little bit more about the organization that you chair, Hockey Equity. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing there?
I founded Hockey Equality in 2020, during the pandemic, as I ran a hockey school for probably about 5-6 years previously. And essentially what I did was I was just replicating what happened to me as a young kid, where I grew up in the Scarborough shelter system, where our family didn't have a lot of money, but we had the community go above and beyond to make sure my brother and I were fed, clothed, and had a positive experience at the arena. And we made the NHL because we were great players, but the number one reason why we had those families go above and beyond. So right now we're feeling hockey is a little bit more too transactional, where you come, you pay your service, it's a lot of money, and you leave. I think it's missing that community element where the kids come to the rink and they're on the ice, off the ice, they're playing tag, they have somewhere to hang out. And that's what we're trying to provide while lowering financial barriers. And, we're growing the game everywhere around the world. But for me, there's kids in our own backyard that can't afford to get on the ice. And I'm currently at the rink, and it's $400, $500 an hour, where we add and offer subsidized programming up to 100%. So we do camps. We do equipment drives, we do registration, we do mentorship, we do advocation, we do everything that helps these kids be successful and get to the next level, not just on the ice, but off the ice. And I heard you mention the Kitchener-Waterloo Siskins. We're giving opportunity for equity-deserving people to get opportunities to coach. And we have Elijah Roberts, who's a former Kitchener Ranger, and he came out of school and stepped into an entry-level assistant coaching job. And we have Anthony Marshall, who was the goalie coach, and he played for Team Jamaica. And, so we're giving females and everybody an opportunity to succeed in the game of hockey and help them climb the ladder on and off the ice. So the NHL and the NHLPA have been amazing. They've financed us and helped us grow with over $1 million over the last 3 years. And we've spent it all because the need is so great. And we're really generous and appreciative of our partnerships with the NHL, the PA, the GTHL, as well, as we're trying to prove that hockey is for everyone.
Well, it absolutely is. If people want to get involved with your initiatives, are there any ways for people to, either join that community or help?
Absolutely. I think social media is the first step, and we're at Hockey Equality on Instagram and Twitter. And for more information, go to www.hockeyequality.org. And it's funny, we had a parent message me yesterday saying, I'm having a hard time registering. It's not letting me, register for this program. And he got a hold of me on Instagram, and I said, hey, just show up to the rink. So he showed up today. He signed up his 2 kids, and his son got 2.5 hours of programming for $20. And we have top of the line trainers throughout the city, and we have Wild Wolf Hockey and Mike Zigamanis and Nam. And so it's great because we're partnering and collaborating with like-minded people that see the big picture of what we're trying to do in growing the game.
Well, it's a huge important step, I think, because we see, there's a lot of other sports out there that are a lot cheaper to, get in on, entry level, and hockey is basically priced itself out that way. Right. So, I think it's super important to give everybody the opportunity who wants to try the sport. So
it is. And, I started off by walking to the arena, and a family stopped and picked us up, and the rest was history. And that's what it is. And, we see a lot of new to Canada families, and I coach the young kids, and you're seeing them walk into the arenas, and they see all these kids from different backgrounds, and they want this for their child. And they don't even know where to turn or how to, there's no signage in their language. So, we're doing our best to grow the game and introduce the game to new communities. And, I'm at Canland Scarborough currently, and there's Seaside Hockey, and I believe 20% of their new registrants are Sudanese refugees. And so there's families from the Sudan that are coming and being introduced to the game, and they're around the rink and seeing the family atmosphere.
Fantastic.
And it's really, really amazing just seeing, different diverse backgrounds play the game, because I've been very fortunate. The game of hockey has been amazing to me. It's changed my life. It's changed my entire family's life. And it's not even about making the NHL. It's just the lessons I learned playing this game. And we want to now introduce that and have other families experience that as well.
Well, that's great. Yeah, no, definitely. All right. You did mention in all that, you mentioned that you're from Scarborough. I'm actually grew up in Scarborough as well. So just a fun question, a little bit of a fun question, actually. Just want to know, what's your favorite place in Scarborough to buy a burger or just a snack item, restaurant, whatever? What's your go-to spot?
I'll give a head and jam, and it's at Field and Shepherd. It's called the Roti Hut. So I'm not sure if you like roti. Roti Hut is amazing. Okay. I'm very big on curry goat, and I love eating Caribbean food. So I eat curry goat and roti from the Roti Hut. And if you want a good slice of pizza, there's a little place on Birchmount and Kingston Road called Enrico's. It used to have the biggest slice of the city, but I think inflation hit, so the slices aren't as big as it used to be as I was in high school. But Enrico's has some really good pizza. And if you're looking for breakfast, Ted's and
Ted's, I know. Yeah, I know Ted's.
Ted's is the best breakfast. So I'm a foodie, as you can see. And again, I could talk restaurants for the next hour in Scarborough.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good spots. I think you like Johnny's too, right? For burgers.
Yeah, Johnny's. Yeah. But sometimes off VP, there's a lot of traffic. I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. I got to get home.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, you are a busy man, and, traffic in the city. Well, that definitely, you have to factor that in. All right. Well, Anthony, thank you so much once again for coming on our show and being a guest with us. We'd like to reserve the right to invite you back again another time, if that's okay with you.
100%. Anytime you guys need me on, give me a shout. And it's great to see you be successful in your podcast. And again, I'll be sure to promote it and show it to the heavens that you guys are doing a great job and amazing and growing the game and talking about, the other side of hockey as well too, and how we can grow and be better as a whole, while we all talk about our city best team in the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, folks, you will hear Anthony on the Leafs TSN radio broadcasts, and check out the website for hockeyequality.org to find out more about this great program that he is championing. He's helping to make the game available to everyone. So you can find the link to that in our show notes as well. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. So thanks to Anthony Stewart for coming on the show. It was great to get his insights on the Leafs, and especially with the big news with Ryan Reeves getting the suspension, the 5-game suspension. It was interesting to see get his thoughts on that. But the thing that actually caught me was his answer for the depth scoring, where you don't think of that. Like he mentioned Mikheyev and Marchment, and just like, again, it comes down to the salary cap. And if you don't develop and keep those players, then like it's tough. You got to have, he suggested you have to trade for them, but then how are you going to do that too, especially with the Leafs and their cap situation? But yeah, those are a couple of players that, it would be nice if we could have kept them. But then, like he said, with the NHL salaries going up for those types of players, it's hard to keep those in lineup. So that's one thing that I got from the conversation with him. And it was great to hear his comments about his hockey equality organization that he's working with and at the grassroots level, getting kids into the game. And that's always fantastic. And just the community part of the game.
And that's like, we were talking a little bit off air before this, that's a huge important piece that kind of has been lost a little bit. The focus has really shifted to, doing everything you can to make it. but then that puts the onus really on the player. And, to really lift people up, sometimes you need, we all hear it takes a village, and that's a super important piece. And just making hockey accessible to kids that may not otherwise be able to participate, especially nowadays where, they don't even get as much opportunity to play sports in school these days, so to be able to champion something like this, I think that's a huge thing. And anyways, it was also great to hear him talk about how the players have elevated their games in the absence of Auston Matthews. Like, of course it's true, we're not necessarily better without him, but guys are finding things in themselves to make the team and themselves better. And that's probably going to pay dividends in the playoffs too,
Yeah, because injuries are going to happen. Like,
for sure.
That's the thing, right?
And you have to have the ability to be able to move people around. And, like he said, he was talking about Marner and how he's really showing that he has the ability to drive his own line. And that might mean, moving down. But you need to be able to get the most out of all your players, not just your top players, to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So just want to go through a review of the upcoming games. There's not many of them. Let's just say that, but it's going to be a light schedule for the Leafs. This week, they only have the one game versus the Vegas Golden Knights on Wednesday night and no Saturday night game. I hate it when that's
no Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like a whole weekend without Leafs.
No, they do play Sunday. Next Sunday, they play the Utah Hockey Club.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah. They will play on Sunday, the Utah Hockey Club, but still, it's only the two games. And then, and then what's up on the next week?
Oh, the following week, they go out on the road for one game versus the Florida Panthers. That's next Wednesday.
Yeah.
But then we do get back to Saturday night hockey with the game against the Lightning. So I'm sure there'll probably be quite a lot of Leaf fans in attendance for those.
For sure.
For those games.
Yeah, those are two big games too, like we said, being only 1 point behind the Panthers right now.
Well, yeah, and you were talking before that the Lightning have several games in hand too. So hopefully they're going to be there. They'll have a much heavier schedule over the next week and a half or so. And so they'll catch up to us a little bit, but they're right behind us.
This will allow for practice time. So that'll be good too. So, which we haven't had a lot of.
I think it's important. Especially the penalty kill, I think goes back to needing a little bit of work again, possibly. So, and just trying to get that depth scoring, basically like a combination that can work, right? Craig Berube and his staff there, they have to get something going on a third line because it's just not happening right now. I don't know what it is about that third line, but that line it's a mystery. I don't know what to do about that because it doesn't matter who they put on there. It just, there's no magic there. Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, and, I don't know. Do you think Matthews is going to be back? I don't think he's going to play on Wednesday.
I actually think that there's a possibility that with such a light schedule, we won't see him till December.
Yeah. The 2nd of December. That's what I was saying, like versus the Hawks, right? Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Is just and that's fine. I mean, as long as we're doing okay, which we are, like the team is doing good, and then let him heal as much as he can. And they said actually that this extra time now is going to basically like remedy the problem. Like he's not going to have it for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Right. So
the thing is, though, it is a fine line between keeping them out too long, then it does take time to get your game back as well. Right. So, I think, obviously they know what they're doing. So he'll come back when he's ready and he won't come back until he's 100% for sure.
Yeah. All right. And a reminder to all our listeners that we are weekly this season. So we'll be back next week with an episode of Leafs Quick Hits.
Yeah, we'll have to find something to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there'll be something. There's always something.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you watch the show on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you won't miss an episode, and hit the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to our show. And please answer our poll on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. We don't have anyone who answered my polls. I want somebody to answer. And so if you can, please and answer the poll, or even leave us a comment. And like we said at the top of the show, we would love to hear from you. Be sure to leave us a rating or review. It's easy and it's important, as it gives our show more exposure as a source for Leafs content. And we thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, thank you to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs, presented by Bet Online. Till next time, go Leafs,
go.
Do you believe?